My name is Oshawn, and today I'll be explaining my program for writing a fractal tree. So the problem asked me to draw a fractal tree of my choice, and I chose to draw a fractal of my choice, and I chose a fractal tree, and to use Scene Builder and detail my program in debugging mode. So over here, I have my IDE open with my program running, not running, but my IDE open with my program, and in Scene Builder, all I have is a button and the border pane. So when I click the button, the fractal tree will be generated inside this border pane right here. Then we can go over to my hello controller method. So I'm accessing the pane element, and I have a method for my button, which calls the fractal method, and this method draws my fractal tree. This method takes 4 parameters: the x1 and y1, so the starting points of the x1 and y1 coordinates of the line, the angle, and the length of the line. Then if the length is less than 2, then we want to stop. This is my base class for the recursive function. So if the length of the line is less than 2, then we're going to return and stop the program. Right now, if I should run my program, then my fractal tree would look something like this. However, if I were to change the length to say something like 5, then the tree will look different because the length is higher, so it will stop earlier. So let's run it, and there we have a more thin tree. Okay, we'll go back to right here. So yeah, that's my base class, and then I have two doubles, x2 and y2, and I'm using the arguments of x1 and y1 to calculate the endpoints for the line. I'm doing this by adding x1 plus the length and then multiplying it by the cosine of the radian of the angle, and I'm using the sin method. Then I'm creating a line, passing the coordinates, the starting point for x1 and the starting points for the line and the ending points, and then I'm adding that line to the pane, and then the pane is my border pane. Then I'm calling the fractal with the coordinates, with the endpoints. I'm calling it with the endpoints for the left side and an angle of the angle take away -30 and the 70% of the length, and this will do the left side of the tree, and this side will do the right side of the tree. Now, if I were to run this in debugging mode, I'm expecting my starting coordinates x1 and y1 to be 400 and 500, and the calculated endpoints to be 400 for x2 and 400 for y2. The angle will be -90 still because I just passed that in, and the length will be 100. Now, upon this, let's run it first to see if I'm correct. Okay, and I have to press the button to initiate this. So there we have x1 400, y1 400. The angle is at -90 and the length is at 100. Then we calculated our x2 and y2 to be 400, and then the line was created and added to the pane, but it was stopped at this line right here. So if I were to run it again now, and this will be changed, the angle will be changed to -120 because adding a negative to a negative equal to a negative, and the length will be 70% because I have that in my argument when I'm calling the recursive method directly. Right, so I want 70% of the length of the initial length of the line, and then we're going to keep on doing this and calculating the endpoints until the line is less than, well, I should change this back to 2. So now if I should run it again, right here, I'm expecting x2 to be 365, y2 to be 339, and the angle to be 120 as I said before, and the length to move down to 70. And there we have it, 70, and so forth. And then this will keep on going on and going on. It won't generate the, as you can see, it's loading because we're still in the loop. So I would have to stop this and run it to stop this and run this to get the fractal tree in one go. And there you have it.